Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Devahutirvacha Sarvam Tad Bhagavan Mahyam Upovaha Pratishrutam Athapi me prapannaya abhayam datumarhasi. Shri Devahuti said, "My Lord, you have fulfilled all the promises you gave me. Yet because I am surrendered, yet because I am your surrendered soul, you should give me fearlessness too." Word for word meaning. Devahuti, Uvacha said, Sarvam all, Tat that, Bhagavan your lordship, Mahyam for me, Upovaha has been fulfilled, Pratishrutam promised, Atha api yet, Me unto me, Prapannayai unto one who has surrendered, Abhayam fearlessness, Datum to give, Arhasi you deserve. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Devahuti said, "My Lord, you have fulfilled all the promises you gave me. Yet because I am your surrendered soul, you should give me fearlessness too." Purport. Devahuti requested her husband to grant her something without fear. As a wife, she was a fully surrendered soul to her husband, and it is the responsibility of the husband to give his wife fearlessness. How one awards fearlessness to his subordinate is mentioned in the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. One who cannot get free from the clutches of death is dependent, and he should not become a spiritual master, nor a husband, nor a kinsman, nor a father, nor a mother, etc. It is the duty of the superior to give fearlessness to the subordinate. To take charge of someone, therefore, either as a father, mother, spiritual master, relative, or husband, one must accept the responsibility to give his ward freedom from the fearful situation of material existence. Material existence is always fearful and full of anxiety. Devahuti is saying, "You have given me all sorts of material comforts by your yogic power, and since you are now prepared to go away, you must give me your last award so that I may get free from this material conditional life." Om Gyanam Timarandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Devahuti said, My Lord, you have fulfilled all the promises you gave me. Yet because I am your surrendered soul, you should give me fearlessness too. Hare Krishna, welcome, good morning, everyone. So this is a very beautiful verse by Devahuti and Karda Muni, and they are speaking about um, uh, this verse is speaking about fearlessness and how one who is in a position of power, of a position of caring for others, one of their duties is to give fearlessness to those who they protect. It's actually described that for a kshatriya, particularly for a king, they have many duties, but their first duty is to give protection, right? To give protection to the citizens, to give protection from criminals, from thieves. That's their first duty, because protection is most basic need. If one is not protected, if one is going to be, harmed, then how can one do anything else, right? We see in countries where there's no clear government, no clear military, people are not very, where there isn't a just government, people are not very enthusiastic to do anything. They're not enthusiastic to become wealthy businessmen because as soon as they'll become wealthy, someone will take it away from them or the government will take it away from them. And this is a fact. There's many examples. One time I visited Russia a long time ago. When my Guru Maharaj was going there, I went there along with him. And one of his disciples there was a householder businessman. And his business was making trash bags, like plastic bags. And he said that my business is like, doing well. And he said, I don't try to increase it. I don't try to become more prosperous or make it bigger, better. I could very easily, but I don't. Because he said, as soon as I become big, the business will be taken away. So what is the purpose? So Devahuti is reminding Karda Muni of his duty of protection. And um, and then Srila Prabhupada is explaining that the number one protection that one needs is spiritual protection. Right? Material protection comes and goes, but spiritual protection is the most important. So now, given that that Karda Muni is a renunciate, she knows that soon he will go and become an ascetic again. He will leave family life and become an ascetic. So she's reminding him that, well, you need, to give me something so I'm protected. And that externally means a son, right? But internally, that means spiritual knowledge, right? So both things would be fulfilled by the birth of Kapil Dev. Obviously, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but even if he wasn't, the point is that he's a son and he's also giving spiritual knowledge. He's a self-realized person, a self-realized soul. And in Kali Yuga, that's the main thing. In Kali Yuga, this is a previous age, so it mattered a lot, to have, a son and all these things. But in Kali Yuga, the main thing is the spiritual knowledge, because men and women in this day and age both are very much, you could say, capable of taking care of their parents, physically speaking, materially speaking. But will they be able to save them at the time of death? Will they be able to help them in their spiritual journey? And that is the key thing. So this spiritual protection is a duty of every person. And that's why it's mentioned here that in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's mentioned that one should not be a husband, a father, a spiritual master, a relative. One should not be a king, especially a government official, unless he can free his dependents from the cycle of birth and death. Right? That is the number one responsibility, and it's a very heavy, very deep responsibility, not just for the father, but also for the mother. So all of those responsibilities are very, very important. And because it's such an important responsibility, then helping the children or whoever's dependent in advancing in spiritual life is devotional service, because that responsibility is given to us in the Srimad Bhagavatam. That responsibility is there for everyone who has a dependent, to free their subordinates from fear. And what's the ultimate fear? The ultimate fear is the cycle of birth, disease, old age, and death. So one must grant them fearlessness by engaging them in Krishna's devotional service. One must grant them fearlessness by making them nice devotees of Krishna. And that is not just something nice to do or something, but it is something that is our duty, something that we must do, something that must be done by those who are in a position of strength or power. So this is what the Srimad Bhagavatam here is saying. And we find that Krishna, because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he grants that fearlessness to anyone who takes shelter of him. So the principle is the same, right? Whoever is, whoever is being taken, whoever takes care of someone must grant those they take care of fearlessness. So if we take shelter of Krishna, if we surrender to him, he becomes obliged to take care of us. And if he's taking care of us, he promises his protection. But the scriptures clarify that this protection is not just some material protection, but it's a spiritual protection. And where does Krishna say that? Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashva shantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Krishna tells Arjuna, you declared boldly, O Arjuna, that my devotee never perishes. Rather, kshipram bhavati dharmatma. They quickly come back to me. I'm the swift deliverer. They're delivered from the ocean of birth and death. So in the purport and the commentaries to these verses, the acharyas say that here Krishna is saying that my devotee will never perish. But sometimes devotees die and devotees get sick, devotees get cancer, even very advanced devotees. Devotees go through troubles, the devotees, become handicapped sometimes. There's a story of a lady who was distributing books, and in the course of trying to get books out of the warehouse, all the book boxes fell on her, and she became handicapped for the rest of her life. In the course of serving Krishna, she was, in this warehouse trying to get books out, and somehow she pulled a box and all the other boxes fell on her, and she got crushed. So we see devotees even in their service. Oh, another Sankirtan devotee was distributing books on a street corner, and a truck on the sidewalk, in a proper place, but a truck backed into her and she died. So devotees go through so much difficulties. So the acharyas explain that protection that Krishna is promising is not just a physical material protection. He also protects there, these are extreme cases, and these devotees, Krishna wanted to bring them back. But we see thousands of instances where Krishna protects the devotees physically, mentally, emotionally. But the ultimate protection that Krishna is giving is a spiritual protection. And that spiritual protection is always there. So a devotee must die like everyone else dies. They must die. If you're in a material body, they leave that body. And we call that externally death, right? Though they are not dying, it's just the body, but the soul is eternal. But they must leave that body. So that has to happen. But what happens after that? That's Krishna's protection. Yes, that devotee died, but that devotee received liberation or the devotee went to somewhere else. That protection Krishna is giving, that they're dying in service to Krishna, they must go back home, back to Godhead. So many devotees died in the battle of Kurukshetra in front of Krishna's eyes. He is all powerful, and they're dying on the battlefield, left and right. Left and right, they're dying. And so um, and so uh, and so how is that possible? Krishna's all powerful, standing there. Krishna may be there next to us, right? And even in the presence of God, he's letting his devotees die. Abhimanyu died, right? He's one of the greatest devotees of the Lord. The hundreds of Yadavas who came, they died. So many of the Pandavas, all their sons died. Um, you know, countless warriors on the side of the Pandavas who were also devotees, who were fighting on the side of Arjuna, they died. They perished, so to say, but they did not perish, right? Name Bhakta Pranashyati. Krishna gave them simultaneous liberation. They went back home, back to Godhead in his eternal abode. And so he has to somehow end the material existence. That is not a lack of his protection. He performs his pastimes, and the devotees sacrifice their life for Krishna, and that is their glory, that is their greatness. But his protection is in his attachment to them, in his bringing them back to their own heart, to his own heart, right? That wonderful bhajan is there. Tumhare hridoye sada Govinda Vishram, Govinda ko hai na mora, ye Vaishnav Paran. That in your heart, Govinda, so the song is to the Vaishnava, in your heart, Govinda is always residing. And Govinda says that in my heart, the devotees are residing, that the devotees are my life and soul. So what to speak of protection, the devotees are Krishna's life and soul. And that's why Krishna is so merciful to someone who serves his devotee, who takes care of his devotee, who praises his devotee. And Krishna becomes so unhappy with someone who, criticizes or neglects his devotee, because that is the devotees are his life and soul. We see in the pastime of Sudama Brahman that Krishna was when Sudama comes to meet Krishna, then Krishna himself personally washes Sudama's lotus feet. He gets down and he takes a platter, and he personally with his hands, and he's his friend. He's not even like he was a generation older than him or something like this. They're equals. But Krishna washes his feet and takes that water and puts it on his head, and brings all of his queens and puts the water on their head. And then after that, he gives gifts and all these things to Sudama. He embraces him. And the queens are thinking that, who is this person who's come? Krishna is not even so loving to us. Krishna is embracing them with all of his heart and soul, and with so much affection and love. And then after that, Sudama is hiding this little gift that he's brought, which is broken pieces of grains of rice. They're just hanging off of his shoulder. And Krishna sees it, that my devotee has brought me something. He was so poor, this is all he had. So then he pulls that bundle of rice from he pulls that bundle of rice from uh, from Sudama's shoulder, and um, and uh, and he pulls that bundle of rice, and he tells Sudama, "I want to eat these grains of rice." So I was saying, no, 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 these are, so hard and they're going to cause you a stomach ache. And, they're old. I mean, you are the king of Dwarka. Why should you eat these grains of rice? These, parched, broken, grains of rice. And to this, um, Krishna says, this is the most best nectar. And even Rukmini there standing, and she is thinking, "Oh gosh, Krishna's going to get a stomach ache today." Yeah, well, I mean, she gives him, the finest rasgullas and gulab jamuns and all these things, and here he's taking this broken raw rice and about to eat it, but Krishna forcefully takes one mouthful and puts it in his mouth and chews on it. And it's said that when he takes that first mouthful, then he gives Sudama one planetary system. Then he takes another mouthful and he puts it in his mouth. He puts it in his mouth. Then he gives the second planetary system. And then he's about to take the third mouthful and he's about to put it in his mouth. And then Rukmini says, "Stop, stop. If you give him all the three worlds, then what will you have left to give to others? So keep something so you have something to give to others." Anyway, this is kind of maybe this part that I was telling you is kind of a folk story. I don't know a Shastric reference to this, but the point is that with every gulpful, Krishna was rewarding. I mean, the highest reward is bhakti, but the point is that he wanted to give his devotee everything. That's the point. And he wanted to give Sudama Brahman all the three worlds because he knew that Sudama didn't want it, and he is free from all greed, covetousness, envy, jealousy. He's free from all those things. He doesn't want anything. He only wants Krishna's devotional service. And this is what Prahlad Maharaj says also to Krishna, to Narasimhadev. He says that in these three worlds, I don't want anything else other than your devotional service. I don't want anything in these three worlds. I only want your loving, kind, devotional service. So, um, this is the devotee's exalted position. So we can always remember that that therefore the message then for us is that one, that we can always remember the exalted position of devotees, and second is that then we can become very greedy to become Krishna's devotee. Then if I become Krishna's devotee, then Krishna personally protects me. Krishna grants me fearlessness. Krishna takes charge of my life. And whatever I say or whatever I do is protected by Krishna, is inspired by Krishna. And this is actually, Prabhupada, in one place, he says this, that that anyone who follows this process very strictly of sadhana bhakti, without fail for 12 years, he says, everything that you say will be perfect. Right? And this is my own personal experience that when we are, performing devotional service, chanting, all these things nicely, then the words that come out of our mouth are better. They're Krishna protects us, and that's why it's actually very, it's in our self-interest to be a devotee of Krishna. Right? We should not think that we're doing this for someone else. When we are practicing nicely, when we do our sadhana bhakti nicely, we are happier because there's less problems. We are happier because then there's Krishna's guidance. Otherwise, it's a very risky business, very risky world. Whatever we say goes wrong, what we do can go bad, and then it takes so much effort and time and anxiety and difficulty to try to fix that situation, to try to um, you know um, figure out what to do and what not to do. So this protection of Krishna, this guidance of Krishna is so wonderful. And by engaging ourselves in the process of bhakti yoga, by surrendering to the process that Krishna has given us, we get this wonderful protection. And this is why the devotees, the acharyas, they encourage us because they know that it's for our happiness. This is what will make us happy. Because our nature, the soul's nature, is that it wants fearlessness. The soul's nature is that it wants to be protected. Just like a child wants the parents' protection. Once they grow older, then they don't want it. But a child, a small child, they become very disturbed or nervous when they don't have their parents' protection, right? And even emotionally, like if they feel that one time I was holding another baby, and immediately Balaram came up to me. He was like, why don't you hold me? Like he was missing. He was thinking, now is my father going to take care of another baby, not me, right? So a small child always wants protection because it's the nature of the soul. Then due to false ego, we think, oh no, I can take care of myself and I can protect myself. But actually, our natural position is that we want to be dependent. We want to be protected. We want to be fearless and under the shelter of a perfect master. And that perfect master is Krishna and Krishna's devotees. So I'll stop here and see if there's any comments or questions.
Hi, Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the class.
Thank you.
Coincident Coincidentally, I was also reading a purport this morning.
Oh,
Prabhupada says on the same topic,
mm,
he says how Lord Vishnu maintains all the living entities.
mm,
And there he puts this line like, all the necessities of life is provided by the Lord
mm,
uh, for the gradual progress towards self-realization.
um,
And the necessities for sense gratification, people
mm,
who are going for that, they are
mm,
put into difficulty by illusion, by
mm,
his Maya energy. So,
mm.
as you're speaking about spiritual perfection or
Yes.
protection, spiritual protection,
Mm,
and these words from Prabhupada made complete, sense. I was able to relate it.
mm,
And all this time it's in my mind that spiritual protection, that is what Lord is providing. But at the
mm,
same time, this is material necessities are there. And then he is the only one who must be giving everything, not
mm,
just spiritual.
yeah.
But whenever I was thinking of Lord giving necessities, I
Mm,
always think of, okay, what I need for material, like
mm,
money, shelter. But now I feel like, this he is providing that for a spiritual progression.
mm,
So we need to use as much as needed for our spiritual growth, not that, okay, these are necessities, so you can take how much ever you want.
wow.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
really good.
Mm. Yes, Prabhu, such a nice, and that passage that you described, Prabhupada says that Krishna provides whatever is needed for the devotee for his gradual advancement in spiritual life, which means the good and the bad, right? Both he may give good, what is needed, like, okay, so the devotee's mind is peaceful, they're not worried about, how to get their next meal. So Krishna provides a nice job or something so they can practice bhakti. And then sometimes to make them go deeper, Krishna may even, give some disease or something or some
Mm,
challenge, and or to glorify them on a very high level when they're there. But for my level, something gives to so that devotee can go deeper, some troubles also, right? So both things, and to your last point, and that's why he sometimes doesn't give the devotee too much, like because he's providing, but that doesn't mean we just use everything for our sense enjoyment.
mm. Yes. But but he might also provide so much for some. Is that because they are not actually, they are running towards material necessities or whatever due to their passionate and ignorance, or people who are really, really rich, who are not Krishna consciousness? So who is providing them? Is that Maya providing them and bringing them into more control?
So yes, Prabhu, like you're saying, actually, Prabhupada says that if something is bringing us closer to Krishna, then that means Krishna is providing it. If
Mm.
something is bringing us away from Krishna, that means Maya, that is our own desires, our own, wanting to enjoy this material world, and Maya responding, that is
Mm.
providing. So that's the
Okay.
test. So like if a devotee gets a disease and they become fully Krishna conscious as a result of it,
Mhm.
more Krishna conscious, very deeply Krishna conscious, then one
Yeah.
can understand that challenge, and I'm just using that as an example, anything else,
Mhm.
like losing a job or whatever, that then was sent by Krishna because the effect was it brought them closer to Krishna. But if someone gets something and they're totally after that in Maya, like they get the disease and they forget Krishna, they
Yeah.
like become angry and they just turn away from God, then that's
Yeah.
given by Maya as a result of their karma. It's just the three modes of material nature acting. It's the law of karma acting, not Krishna personally in their life.
Wow. That's really interesting. Like when someone loses a job or someone
Mm,
gets sick, lose their family or whoever, it's easy to say that, oh, Krishna is doing this, but what they are thinking at that moment, it's all about their consciousness at that time.
mm,
So who are we to preach someone saying, this is Krishna acting on you,
mm.
right? It
Yeah.
is they should realize that this, okay, because whatever the outcome coming out of that, losing a job or anything, if they are coming closer to Krishna, then they know it.
Yes.
No one needs to go and tell them. Great, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Mohan Leela Prabhu, I think yes. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandava Pranam, Hare Krishna Prabhupada. Thank you for nicely articulating the mercy of Krishna. Prabhu, I'll try to phrase my question. When we see devotees who are really, really practicing Krishna consciousness,
Mm,
for whatever reason in this material world, the material world acts in its own way.
mm,
They sway away from Krishna consciousness.
mm,
Sometimes it's because of their fault. Sometimes it's not because of their fault. It's circumstantial or whatnot, right?
mm,
Um, and then we say, why is Krishna not protecting them at that point of time? They are practicing bhakti. Why to wait till they leave their body or something like that, right?
right.
Because if Krishna wants us to perform bhakti,
Mm,
and he's a protector of bhakti, why is he not protecting them at that point of time?
mm. Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, there could be so many reasons. And one reason that I've personally kind of um, like through just my small experience, like realized is that sometimes, very often, like Krishna knows something about that person that the rest of the world doesn't know. And so it seems like to us, this devotee is so sincere, they're perfectly pure, or they're very, very advanced, and this is completely illogical why Krishna is doing this. But Krishna knows something, very deep in their heart. Maybe there's something that needs to be worked through, and therefore he makes that arrangement. So, like there's one devotee just recently encountering this that they, like most advanced, most wonderful, wonderful devotee, but they were having they were, you know, they, there was some secret part of their life that no one knew, that where they had, you know, they were doing or had done something very wrong, and and uh, and and I obviously didn't know that, nothing like this, and they were going through this immense struggle, and then later on somehow it got revealed that this was something that this devotee was struggling with, and that's why they were there. So in the case of the pure devotees, who are completely pure, it's Krishna's Leela, he's trying to glorify them, he's trying to bring them, from one devotee says, from already greatness to eternal glory, right? From a already very high platform, he's trying to glorify them, bring them to the point of eternal glory. So their glories are sung for ages to come, like Haridas Thakur, right, in the 21 marketplaces and whatnot. So that's one level. But on the level of sadhakas, even up to the level of prema, so even on the level of bhava, right? Yeah, and that's the example also that I was thinking of, that even up on the level of bhava, Krishna is still purifying the devotee, and we don't know what exactly his magic is. Like in the case of Bharat Maharaj, right? He's a wonderful example. He had lost complete attraction for the material world, so much so that he's the most successful person in the world, and he leaves it like its stool, right? He walks away from it, like Bhagavatam says, like its stool. Yet Krishna knew that he still had the small anartha of wanting to be the protector, and that's why the story of the deer. Of course, we heard that anartha came from a previous thing, that he disobeyed his spiritual master, or did something wrong there. But whatever it was, he was on the level of bhava, imagine, which 99% of devotees are not. He's on that high level of bhava, and still Krishna thinks that he needs 2 more lifetimes, and he goes through so much purification. So my realization, kind of just in your response, is that we feel that way because we don't know the full story. Krishna knows where devotee is at, and if a devotee is completely pure, then it's just lila. But if it's not lila or glorification of the devotee, then it's some type of purification. Is that?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. I think when I was asking the question, I was remembering Bharat Maharaj past time also, like you mentioned, right? So could it be that, and I'm just contemplating, right? Could it be that as external people, we quickly jump into judgment of saying he fell down, or he's sinful, or some action of this caused this one. But if I understand correctly, based on the whole talk you gave, we should be able to see Krishna's hand in it, saying that he's never going to give up on him. And externally it maybe looks like a fall down, but because Krishna is saying, I will eternally protect you, that means he's technically, we should be seeing Krishna's protection in it. Am I getting it right, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, and amazing you're saying this, because this morning I was hearing that the devotees are always feeling themselves very low, right? They feel themselves very fallen. We see Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami saying, "I'm the most fallen," all these things. Why? Because genuinely they actually feel that way, because a devotee, his life is like a white sheet, right? Perfectly pure, everything so nice. So even if there's a speck on it, even if there's one speck on a white sheet, you notice it. So advanced devotee notices any mistake or fault or material desire that they have immediately, and they think, oh, how can it be there? Because their life is so wonderful. So in the same way, to your point, when we see an advanced devotee, especially, or any devotee, when we see them suffer or go through some difficulty, that's the approach we should think about. That's what you were saying, that how their life is so wonderful, right? It's so pure, and Krishna, like, it's already white, whereas my heart is black, but their heart is white, and Krishna is just removing the last few specks, like in the case of Bharat Maharaj. He is taking care of those last few things. But as you were saying, how can I judge them, or not, or forget that Krishna is actually protecting them? Because they're already there. I mean, they just have a little bit more to go. So how can I forget that point, right? That's the way the devotee is thinking.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. I think I like that example of being a white sheet of paper, and we tend to look at it, that one spot. Thank you, Prabhu. Very beautiful talk. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, anything else? Okay, we'll stop here. Thank you. Hare Krishna.